Good morning, everybody.
Mm.
Today's conversation is going to be about, are you at your reselling potential, and what you can do to reach that if you're not. And then also if you're at your reselling capacity. So you might not be at your potential, but you might be at the max you can do every week. And maybe we can start with Freddie. You were chatting before the call. Freddie, how do you feel about your week right now? Are you as productive as you can be? Can you get more out of it?
I'm trying to refine my processes and take less steps between the photo station and everything. I mean, like everything I do, I try to do better. But I know that there's a lot of things that I'm doing not right yet. I haven't gone through the whole white paper from A to Z. Put it that way, But I'm trying.
So what are you listing per week right now?
10 a day. I
And
want
how
to
are
get.
you?
I want to get to 15 for sure.
Okay. Do you want to walk us through what your day looks like?
Yeah, 6:30, 7 o'clock, wake up, do customer service. If there's easy packages to ship, I get the tracking number right away, so I get that out of the way. I respond to do customer service 10-15 minutes max, and then I'm looking into the stuff where I left off. I try to do what you do, set my workstation back to 0 in the mornings, at night, so I can start it afresh. And then I look at where I'm at, where I left off. I either start listing. I try not to take from the draft bank if I don't have to, especially now this time of year, because you never know if you're gonna get sick, or you have holidays coming up that you want to get a couple of days off. So after I do that, that's around 10 o'clock or so. I start looking for where we're gonna go source. We do sourcing. And at night, well, before 2 o'clock, I see if there's anything that's sold, because I have same day shipping. So I live very close to the post office, and try to get that. I will get everything out by 4 o'clock, and then as soon as I have a little bit of a time over, I try to clean up all listings.
And how many listings do you have in your store right now?
1,000.
1,000. And how many sales do you have per day?
Between 5 and 8, 9.
That's pretty good. So next year, do you think to yourself you want 1,500 items in the store and 10 to 15 sales, or how'd you come up with you want to get to 15 next year?
Well, I just know that if I get higher quality, I want to have a higher selling point. I know that it takes the same amount. I used to be in the luxury goods sales before, and I know it takes the same amount of time for me to list a $5 hoodie as it takes for me to list $50 electronic item. So I'm actively looking for more expensive stuff to list. Right now, we're an everything store, and there's better margins on the hard goods, but it's a steadier sale on the clothes. And just like you said before, it takes longer time to sell the clothing, but it's a steady sale. The one-off items I sold a painting yesterday. It was like, $240 or something. It's the same cost as a pair of jeans, So that's, but I'm not selling paintings every day, unfortunately.
So what do you does everybody in the group think about that? Like, it takes the same amount of time to list a $100 item as a $5 item. Like, how does that help you?
Well,
It just is. Go ahead.
It kind of sucks. Like I used to sell like very expensive stuff, for a living, and it's while I went by the saying that I rather sell 100 Volvos than one Ferrari. It's sometimes easier to not chase after every tail, and then try to do one thing good. I'm trying to find more expensive stuff, but when you go to the bins and stuff, and you're looking at $40-50 calculators, things getting out of hand. I got to find other places to source, and that it's a little bit frustrating, but hey, it is what it is.
So I just want to clarify also, we're doing a double Zoom room this week. So this week the call's on YouTube to let people get an idea of what this looks like after just a week of coaching publicly. We have a dedicated beginner call that happens right after this call at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. However, I still consider this call a beginner call. Anyone under 30 sales a day, I feel like is not at their potential. So if you guys are listening to this call right now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with less than 30 sales a day. I'm just saying that if you're working full time, being productive the whole day, and your processes are all set up and you understand how eBay works, you'll have more than 30 sales a day. Because in the group, the photo part only takes 1 minute. The listing part should take 1 to 2 minutes. And the shipping, putting away part only takes 1 minute. So that's 3 to 4 minutes per listing. And if you multiply that by an hour, that's like 15 to 20 listings minimum per hour. Then if you spend 4 hours a day listing and processing and putting things away, and 4 hours a day looking for items, that's actually around 80 items a day processed. So if you're under 80 items a day in 8 hours, then you're leaving money on the table by not having your processes set up, which is kind of mind blowing because most people who do this are in the 5 to 10 listing per day. But if you guys were to come to Reseller Nirvana reselling school, then and everything was already ready, you would be listing 80 items a day the first week you got here, because you get the work, do your customer service, like Freddie was saying, get everything done. And he said it takes about 10 minutes. And even at a high level, only takes 10 minutes because most of the questions can be answered with, I apologize for your experience. We have free returns. Please send the item back and I'll take care of you. That's part of it. The other part of it is like, yes, we combine shipping. That's probably half of your questions once you start to get bigger are questions related to shipping. And then a few lowball offers every day, which you can just counter offer in 7 seconds. Photos listing. And it's pretty insane that 80 items a day is what would happen if you put in a full Reseller Nirvana day. So everyone ask away. Any questions at any level?
Isn't that categorical though?
Can you hear me?
I can, but Karina, we're actually doing just questions in this Zoom. So if you have any questions, I'll answer for you live on YouTube. But go ahead, Isaiah.
I said, isn't that categorical though? Like for it to be doing 80 a day, 10 minutes per listing or whatever. Isn't that more dependent upon being in clothes or something adjacent to it that's similar, rather than, you know, if you're selling furniture, you wouldn't be like, you need to be doing 80 a day, or you would expect 80 a day for that person. So how does that work depending on the different categories?
So
Because everyone isn't selling, you know, clothes and shoes and stuff.
okay, so that's a good question. So how does the time per listing vary per category? So as far as the shipping goes, the picking part is the same in every single category. The packing part is different because some items require a lot of dunnage. Some items are difficult to, are heavy, right? So you have to add in the processing time. The reason why we use clothing is because it has one of the fastest processing times all the way around. But if you are selling video games, it requires testing, grading. If you're selling shoes, it may require cleaning, buffing, drying. Shoes take up more space. So as an example, 100 pairs of shoes laid out on the ground is a lot of space. Also, 100 pair of shoes, it just overall, every single part of the process takes longer. It's interesting looking at comparing shoes versus clothing, hard goods. But when you add all the time together, I still think you can do 80 shoes in 8 hours. Because we're talking 10 per hour. So I think all the processes put together, like taking pictures of shoes is faster than clothing, right? If you use poly bags, the shipping is the same.
Nah, I don't think it's even close. I think y'all are killing us when it comes to photos. Dude, tech takes photos in like 17 seconds. It doesn't count.
No, but shoe photos should take under 1 minute easily.
Dude, I don't know many shoe sellers that are at that point, but there are some, I know. But that's not what I mean. I'm not talking about shoes specifically. I'm referring to other categories outside of clothing and shoes. Like if you sell glassware or things like that. Categories that are not clothing or shoes. Like, how do you figure out how to apply the time standards to those other categories if you're listening today? Or do you just make your time standards based upon where you are now and, you know, just try to improve in the future?
Okay, Isaiah, you're making me really happy because I think we have a good idea. I have a good plan for this. And Corinne or Karina, I'll answer your question right after this. Okay, so what I would like to do, since this week we're going to be private, I'm in public on YouTube. Next week when we go back private, what I want to do is have people volunteer to list an item on the call. We can look at it. I want to see what is it that's taking longer, because I am 100% positive tech can take shoe pictures in less than 17 seconds. It's less difficult to take a picture of shoes than it is for clothing. It's easier because there's no measurements. Even if you did a measurement, which would be the outsole, that would still be faster. The insole, when I guess I don't know of an efficient way to take a picture of the insole or the inside tag, because it might be different. Sometimes it can take you 30 seconds to take a picture of the shoe tag, but there's probably a fast way to do it. But I actually want to do that on this call.
Most of the time for shoe listing is going to go into inserting and removing insoles. I mean, inserts. Like, that's where the photo process isn't that long. Like, here's the thing. If you took photos of shoes, and like, if you did one pair of shoes and you already had the inserts in them, the photo process is much, much faster than it is when you take photos of 3 shoes and divide it by 3. Because putting those inserts in and taking the inserts out usually is going to take a bit more time. It also depends on which kind of shoe you're taking photos of. If you have boots in the mix or heels in the mix, it also changes the time a little bit. So it's not the same as, like, doing 1 isn't the same as doing 15 when it comes to the time spent. But, like, that's not what I'm talking about. Like, it would be interesting to see tech do it in 15 seconds. I'm certain that there is a way, but.
So what the point of next week will be, because this is exciting to me, we'll be able to look at each person's processes and each get an idea of how they are different. Because every single item is a little bit different. You got to adjust along the way. Like, sometimes shirts don't have tags. Sometimes shirts have tags that are in different places. Sometimes the arms are different. So it's just, everyone in the group has to learn how to adapt. There is like, we're just going to look at each process. But honestly, I think you could do 10 couches in an hour, and those are heavy. You would just need some kind of like dolly to help you move the sofa in place and enough space to put them somewhere. But any item should take less than 10 minutes or less than 6 minutes to list.
I disagree. I don't know how to phrase this as a question, but I think that the research part for one-off goods is
that's the part that would be reduced if you become not an everything seller.
Yeah.
If you want to sell 10 completely different items every hour, that's your fault.
Yeah.
I mean, like, unless it's like even 10 completely different items that are modern, it would not take longer than 6 minutes.
True.
If it's old or incredibly unique and you have to, a painting would take longer than 6 minutes to list. Sure. Because the photo part would take 1 minute, and then you have to look up the artist and compare. But I'd argue that most paintings still would take less than 6 minutes to list, unless it's something outstanding that requires a ton of research. But if you want to list 10 different items in an hour, that's your fault. I mean,
so
as exciting as that sounds, doesn't that get old after like the 3rd day?
So the answer to the OG question would be 6 minutes should be the striving point for most people.
Well, I think everyone should strive for 3 minutes, because you're gonna run out of time with your goals.
So 6 minutes is a minimum point. 3 minutes is where you should strive towards.
Yeah, everyone should strive for as fast as possible with no mistakes. And then if you have to have a sandwich or go to the bathroom or talk to your uncle, then it takes 6 minutes. But on a normal day-to-day basis, you should take 3 minutes every item. There's no reason. What is the reason to go slower? Why do we have to go slower? Why can't you get your eBay done work as in the shortest amount of time and then move on to the next thing? So I'm going to answer a question for Karina in the chat real quick. She's saying she noticed a small flaw in the item before shipping it out. So what I would do is message the customer and let them know, hey, I found a small flaw. Do you want me to ship this item or do you want to cancel? Right? Because you'll get a defect if you don't, if they cancel, you don't get a defect. If you cancel, you get a defect, and defects are the worst thing that can happen on your eBay account. If you have free returns and you send it out anyway, you can tell them, hey, sorry about the flaw, I have free returns, and it protects you against negative feedback as long as they open up a return and send the item back. But this is why we try to recommend checking out the item when you buy it, when you photograph it, list with the item in front of you, and then when you ship. This is a good thing to be able to catch that flaw early enough. You can reach out to the customer, and if they say, I would like to cancel, I don't want that item because of that flaw, then you don't get dinged. Beth is saying, if you have a lot of returns, does that hurt you? I do believe that return ratio is something that eBay factors in because they don't get paid. When a customer returns an item, we don't get paid, they don't get paid, and the customer wasted their time. So you want to reduce your returns, but item not as described returns are much worse. So try to avoid those because that can affect a high item not as described defect rate is 6%. And that penalty is, honestly, it's crippling for most businesses. It's a lot of money. So Hanley is saying in the chat, she can list a car part she knows nothing about in 4 minutes. When it requires a lot of research, it might be because you don't know a lot about your niche. That's true. I think if you're a clothing seller, every single clothing item should be able to be listed in less than 4 minutes for the most part, unless it requires heavy research on the price. I can see that being a thing, but honestly, if we do the method that we talk about in the group, which is like what's sold recently, what's the highest it's ever sold for, what's the lowest it's ever sold for, and if you use text cooler than method, then pricing does not take that long.
Wait, so you're talking about the listing process exclusively? I thought you were talking
no,
about
the whole thing.
So you're saying photos plus listings, everything 4 minutes or less, not just the listing part.
Everything.
Okay, yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, but I'm saying Freddie made a good point. If you have to research it because you don't know anything about it, that's already 10 minutes. That's not 10 minutes just looking for information about it. It can take an hour for some people to look up something that they've never heard of, and they looked up the comp, and it was, if you go to the thrift store and it's $10 and you look on eBay and it's $80 and you buy it, and you need to figure out why that one is $80, because sometimes one marking or one thing can make it worth $80 and otherwise it's worth whatever. And you have to know what could be potentially wrong with this item. Seth is using the cooler method and it saved him a ton of time. Agreed. And it gets more specific. If you are in clothing, the size matters. Actually, you know what? And in everything in life, size matters. Let's leave it there. Okay. So we have a couple more questions here. Sarah doesn't sell clothes, but she buys directly from China. Would that still apply to the group? It does. If you sell replenishable items or you drop ship, the information is similar. The way items rank is the same. The way you store your items is the same. The way you ship and do customer service is the same. The only difference is the daily listing thing is different when you have replenishable items, because it's more about getting that individual item to rank versus if you're an everything seller or a categorical seller, you're trying to get your entire store to rank versus like one individual item that sells over and over and over again. It's a different strategy. Like you probably wouldn't use bold or subtitle or volume discounts if you only sell one of each item. Jesse, do you have a question? Jeannie says, as long as an item is prepped, it shouldn't take very long. That's also important because, okay, let's back up for just a moment. What can make an item take longer to list is staging, number one, right? So if you already memorize the 12 angles that you take, or in some cases, the 25 angles of each item, you don't have to think about staging because you can just go through the pictures and it's fast. If the item requires adjusting during the staging, that can take a long time. That's why, like, if you sell fancy clothes over $100 a pair, I mean, an item, you probably should steam every item. If you're selling expensive formal wear or gowns, a picture of a wrinkled gown is not a good look. But if you're asking $200, that might make sense. There's a lady in the group that has 1,000 items and only sells 8 items per month, but she has a $300 ASP. So 8 per month. We're talking about like aiming for 10 items sold per day, right? But she sells 8 per month. But they're super, like every single item is over $100. Back to what Freddie was talking about. But can Freddie live on $800 a month? Right? Even though you're crushing it every single sale, at least $100 profit, that's only 8 sales per month. That's not a huge amount of money, even though every single item in her store is over $300, all home runs. But also, Freddie, interestingly enough, it takes her 20 minutes per listing because of steaming. She's an expert too. Steaming, cleaning, repairing, adjusting, staging, because a $300 dress looks best staged a little bit and not just like on a hanger or on the floor. That's not a good presentation for that kind of item. So 20 minutes per listing. But if you add that up, she's only working 3-4 hours a day.
Yeah.
So if she listed 20 or 30 $300 items, okay, then now she's making a great living with only expensive items, but got to add that volume in. Jesse, you ready?
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry about
What's
that.
up?
So I have a beginner question, kind of.
Go for it.
Like, this is only my second return ever. The first one came in, and this one, it's like I don't know, hovering around like the 10-day period. Like, how long before, like how long do they have to return the item?
You set the return parameters to, is it 15 days is the lowest? 15, 30, or 60 days?
Yeah, okay, that sounds right. I have to see what I set it at. So I think I either did the 15 or the 30. I just have to look. I didn't know if it was like just a I don't know, like a set amount. But I remember either doing it at 15 or 30 now that you say that.
Yeah, 15, 30, or 60-day returns. You set it, and then they have that entire time period. So, and it's from when they get it.
How do I look to see what the item said at, like what the policy is?
You can look up that item description and it'll say on your listing in the return section.
Roger that. All right, thank you.
You got it.
Chris, may I add something?
Please.
You just made my day again. I mean, like I had this person before we started this call that, just want to throw away the item and gave me a bad review. I just wrote exactly what you said again. Like, I do apologize again. I have free returns. I don't know if you noticed it. Please open a return. And lo and behold, she just did. And that's my way out. She started a return, and that bad review is going to be removed per automatic. I really appreciate it. It happened right now. I mean, she said she's going to throw it away. She doesn't want to pay for the return.
Yep.
And I went back to the well, although I thought this was an impossible person. I said, I do apologize again for your experience. Please open a return and I'll take care of you. And she did. And now I'm home free,
Yeah. And that there's nothing really you can do beyond, I'm really sorry for your experience. We have free returns. I'll take care of the return shipping and the original shipping. If it's really that type of an experience, just send it back. And sorry about that. And if they're still unhappy, and there are people who are still unhappy, right? It's up to the discretion of the seller to do. If you want to go above and beyond, go for it. But there's nothing really required beyond a full refund, in my opinion. Like, I understand some people think that, or maybe they are entitled to it. Personally, I don't know. If like somebody says, Freddie, I bought an item from you, I got it, it was not as described, and I want to return it and get my money back, and I want you to send me a $25 gift card and a handwritten apology. Some people need that extra piece, but that's not the way to do it. And also, another reason why we offer free returns is so that we are protected against negative feedback. And Corinne on the chat is asking, can she cancel and say the buyer canceled? Absolutely not. But one, that's dishonest, it's lying, and it still counts as a defect because eBay reads the messages. And if the buyer did not cancel and you cancel and said it was them, that's like the worst possible situation, and you're not protected against negative feedback. So now you got to give them all their money back anyway. They can leave you a negative feedback, which you can't get removed, and you have a defect, which is the worst possible thing on eBay. You get a couple of defects, you're below standard, they take away your traffic. So now you're not getting any sales. You got to pay 6% more, and you lied. So it's like the worst all around. Do not cancel and say that it's your buyer's fault. In fact, some people who do that, they get that privilege taken away.
Mhm.
You can't even do that. If you lie enough times, they take that option off your eBay, and you just, every single return is item not as described. So definitely don't do that. So Marco's asking if we should have a dedicated processes call where people can improve their systems. That's this call.
Yeah.
So you guys tell us what you're doing, what your productivity level is, how many you're getting done per day. Yesterday, Neil saying it used to take him all day to do 5 to 10 sets of pictures, and now he does 30 pictures in the morning. And I asked him how, and he's like, prepping all similar items together, exact same photos every single time. That's what we're talking about. That is this call in the morning, which is how many are you getting done? Are you getting done more than before? Let me ask Carol. Carol, are you listing more items this year than last year?
Actually, I just did my books a little bit,
Yep.
and I am staying with 10 listings because there's definitely room for improvement.
So, but are the 10 listings getting done? Like, why have you decided to stay at 10?
Because I'm only selling like 7 items
Okay.
average per day, and
Okay.
I want to get that up, and I want the profit to go up, and I have a lot of inventory, so
Yep.
I need to just get through my inventory. And I'm actually last year my income was better because I had Amazon and 2 eBay stores.
Okay.
Amazon divorced me, so now I'm taking all of my Amazon, putting it into a store, and I'm actually closing out 1 store. So I'm
Okay.
going to just go to 1 store. So it basically feels like it's starting over.
So usually when people say I have a lot of inventory, they increase their listing goal.
I can't keep up to it because I'm trying to get all of my Amazon into it and get my other store into the 1 store. And I can't do it all.
Is the overall goal to get to 1 eBay store with everything in it?
Yes.
Okay. Why did you have 2 before? Just to separate Amazon and eBay?
I had an Amazon store, and I went and I had a new store that I started that was just supposed to be all Western. And
Okay.
then my first store is a messy mess that's like 10 years old.
Okay. So what do you want?
I want it to be all in the Western store. I want to niche down even more. I'm getting rid of like all pans, anything that's not clothing. I'm really just going straight forward with Western-ish kind of things and boho stuff.
So the inventory that is not listed, is this just Amazon stuff or is it all kinds of stuff?
It's Amazon stuff and a lot of Walmart stuff that I really want to get just out of here. Stuff from Walmart.
Stuff that you listed on Walmart to sell?
I listed it on Amazon from Walmart. So I have a lot of boho. I have a lot of Time and True and
I see.
Walmart inventory because I live right next to Walmart.
Okay.
It's doing great on Amazon, but it doesn't do so well on eBay.
Gotcha. Okay. So do you want to put steps in to get your Amazon account back, or you feel like that ship has sailed?
That ship has sailed.
Okay. So I find that interesting. So what are you going to do? You obviously have more items than 10 a day.
I have 10 a day, but I'm getting everything transferred over. I have my Amazon mixed in with
Okay.
my eBay stuff. So it's
So,
just, I have
so
like,
that means you're doing 10 a day and staying steady with that. And the rest of the day is repair mode. Is that
yes, yes.
okay?
So I get my 10 a day done in the morning, keep it going, keep my stores going. I'm discounting one store like crazy. And then the rest of the time is repair mode.
Okay. That's great. That's actually an interesting goal for 2023 for a lot of people, because if you're selling 7 and listing 10, you're profitable. You're most likely
Right.
making money in that store. And the rest of the time with the repair, are you not counting those ones being repaired and listed? Is it talking about 10 unique new Western items in while you?
What I'm doing, it's really interesting. So I'm going to my old store and
Yeah.
I'm screenshotting. I'm going through and either I discount the item drastically, $3, $1, whatever, or I put it into my new store and I just do all the screenshot, sell similar with it, and then find my own listing and then do screenshots, put it in, and then delete the listing.
How many items are in the Messy Mess store and how many items are in the Western store?
1,200 in the Messy Mess store and 1,700 in the good store.
Wow. Okay. So are you in the Messy Mess store? That store is going to be discontinued?
Yes, I'd like it to be discontinued in 3 months.
Okay. So you're transferring those items into the other store?
Yes.
Okay.
If
Interesting.
it's the item I want. If it's the item I don't want, then I'm discounting it major.
Okay. So this is cool because you're maintaining a high sell-through rate in the 1,700 store, right?
Right. And it's also the Messy store.
Oh, it's both.
Yeah.
Okay. And how do you feel about your listing quality?
It's much improvement. So I have, I can tell if it's a good one by my back, by what the picture looks like. I can tell if it's a recent one. And so I'm trying to get the same backdrop with all my good listings.
That makes sense. That consistency will help speed up a lot of things. Cool. So you're giving yourself 3 months to clean up the Messy Mess store.
Yes, and then I have to I have to just find all my stuff from Amazon. I'm continuing to do that also because I have like 1,500 items in Amazon that were dropped.
So if you did 15 listings a day in your Messy Mess store, then after 3 months, all of them will have been adjusted, improved, discounted, discarded, or moved into the other store. Is that how you look
Yes.
at it? Like 10 new listings, 15 repair?
Yeah. Or more.
Or more.
I put them in drafts. I put them in drafts too, so I'll have them ready.
Yep. Man, when you turn off the Messy Mess store and you just have one store, your life's going to be so awesome.
I cannot wait.
I would try to get it done faster than 3 months just so I could breathe again.
I do. So I take my computer with me and I have a lot of grandkids. And so if I'm babysitting or whatever, I can just just work on the Messy store. So I try doing, 10 new listings with my inventory and then just work on the Messy store when I'm in airports or wherever.
So in theory, Carol, once this store is fixed, you could have the capacity to list 25 a day.
Yes.
Because if we're not counting the repair, and I actually think that's very mature of you to not count the repairs. Because a lot of people are like, oh, I just fixed 10 listings. That's my 10 listings for the day. No, it's not. You know what I mean? That's not doing, that's like fixing.
And sometimes I have to, let's be honest, sometimes I have to use those. But I try really hard not to. I try to do new listings.
Got you. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
Brian, I want to ask you, how's 2023 going to be different than this year? And this year you made tons of improvements.
Well, I guess the improvement, I'm more consistent and my listings are better. So I was thinking about the question, did you list more? I did not list more, but last year I had a VA, so I had more listings, but they were poorly done. And that's cost me a lot of time this year correcting those. So for 2023, like for a lot of this year, I was doing 5 days a week. And then probably the last 4 months or so, I added Saturdays in. And I think for 2023, if I listed every single day, hopefully get those done 5 days, 5 days listed, launch 7 days, then that would take my consistency up to 100%. So I think that's going to be my goal, is to get listings up 7 days a week, and just to increase that consistency even more while maintaining the quality.
So do you still have listings that you're working through from the VA?
At this point, yeah, but let me think. No, I'm up to January 2022. No, these are actually listings now that I did. So they're not as bad, but I still will find some mistakes. So typically I'll just do like 5 a day. And out of those 5, typically 1 or 2 I shouldn't have listed. That's just dragging my store down, and I'll just remove those. And the others I will either correct if there's a problem, or just, just kind of refresh it. But that process is much less intensive at this point.
So let's work from, let's do the 7 habits of highly effective people right now and start at the end. When we have this conversation next year, what do you want to have happened in 2023?
This time next year, I want to be launching 30 pairs of shoes per day, 7 days per week. So that's where I want to be at. And I'm at 18 per day now. If I add 1 extra listing per day per month, like January will be 19.
Yep.
February 20, I should hit that 30 number. And I think 30 shoes per day, if I pull that off, I should be in a good position.
So what things need to be in place to do from 18 to 30? Like, what do you need to learn this year to pull that off? Or in 2023, rather?
I think it's mindset. Like, I was talking on the shoe call with Isaiah yesterday that it's like I had a hiccup with one of my major sourcing routes. And I think I freaked out, and I changed my model, because I changed models too quickly. That's like a mindset issue. So I need to, like when a hiccup comes, be willing to try to really work through it before pivoting. Like there's a fine line. Like you need to be ready to pivot, and you need to have backups, but at the same time, you don't want to just change out your whole business model because you have a hiccup. So I think it's mindset, and because I know I can do it. Like I figured things out. I'm able to source enough. Like right now, I'm sourcing enough. I could do 30 a day, but I don't think it would be smart to jump to 30 a day. So I want to slowly grow into that and just keep building that consistency. Because somebody asked about that yesterday, about consistency. Every time you hit your listing habit, or whatever your goal is, like it's a vote for that person you want to be. Like that identity slowly improves. And I don't know, I'm just kind of all over the place, but mindset, I think it's just mindset.
So in 2022, you changed gears quite a bit. And you think that's a reaction to the results not coming fast enough? Do you think it's from, what is the reason you think that you end up switching?
Honestly, it's a character flaw. I call it squirrel brain. I see, I guess it's almost like, for being too optimistic. Like I see so many possibilities. When I see something, I'm like, oh, I can do that. That model works. Let me try that. This model works. I can do that. So it's almost like too ready to pivot, and like wanting to chase it all. And maybe for a while, I think it was like I wanted variety. Like I would get bored. I think I beat out the boredom part. Like I enjoy listing shoes. I enjoy being done at a reasonable time. So I've fixed that part. The rest of it is, I don't know. I just need to quit chasing every new shiny object. I think that's why, like for, I think I've done just about every business model. Like for a while, I was doing storage units, and that was so fun because you never know what you're going to get. But now the thought of doing a storage unit sounds horrible. So I've conquered that part. It's just been between clothes and shoes for a lot of this year, and now I just need to stay with shoes.
Thank you, Brian. Christine, what's different this year, and what would make 2023 a success?
Okay, what's different this year? First thing is that I started listening to text call in the beginning of the year. I decided, okay, I don't know why I didn't want to listen to text call, but I didn't. And now I'm listening to it and I've made quite a few changes. This year, I've never like jumped a whole lot. I have continued to reorganize. I've done it like 4 times this year, my office and my shipping station and my inventory. I think I've got it right now. And then last year, I did not save any of the business money outside of taxes. And I really didn't even do that well. So that was, it's kind of sad and kind of embarrassing to say, but I just kind of said, oh, well, I've got this amount of money in my checking account, so I'm going to go and get some more inventory. And I didn't stay to a budget. So this year I've got it, excuse me, mapped out on what I'm going to be spending, what are the musts that I have to spend, and then it ends up being 50% after saving taxes, tithe, paying myself 5% because that's what I didn't do last year. I didn't pay myself anything. So 5% I think is not bad at my level. It's not much, but hey, it's a cup of coffee. So so this year I'll be able to spend 50% without feeling like I'm making another area suffer back on inventory, which is good. And I think the only problem, well, it's not really even a problem. The only thing is that I have to be more willing to go to the bends. Number one, it's very stressful going to the bends, in my opinion. It hasn't gotten to that fun, routine section, but I'm gonna have to get the bread and butter. I can't afford to buy bread and butter at the regular thrift. So I have to meld that back in. That's what's going to be different next year.
So this year, you've gained a much larger understanding of the numbers.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Do you feel like you're a numbers person?
I'm not.
But this year you have a better idea of how it works.
Yeah, like last night, Tech. I said something about well, I had a question about. It wasn't even a question. I had said, well, if somebody makes an offer, then this and that and this. And he said the answer, and I'm like, yeah, I know that. In my head, I knew what he was saying. So you're right. I did know. I mean, even though he repeated it, I knew exactly what he was saying, and I understood that. So yes, knowing my numbers, I think it was in the middle of the year. I'd said that I wanted to be better at learning my numbers. And I did a little bit, but but not as much as I'm going to be learning it this year. So I'm kind of excited.
All right. I think you've done great this year. There's been a lot of improvements and a lot of changes to your business, and understanding the numbers is the part that helps you think, okay, now I need to get more items at the bins because it lowers my buy costs.
Mm-hmm.
Some people can't afford small margins. And I think that maybe everyone in the group can't afford small margins. Like if you're thrifting, it better be 8 into 30, 8 into 25 to really make up for it. But a lot of people get stuck in the 8 into 12, 8 into 10, 8 into 15, and their items don't sell. And if your item doesn't sell, you're in it $8 plus tax plus gas.
Mm-hmm.
And you're kind of screwed. You can't grow.
Right. Yeah, I just unloaded 53 items from my store that actually I had taken down, rephotoed, relist, and they still didn't sell. And I knew that they wouldn't sell, but I just but I just didn't want to give them up. And now it's just like, okay, they still didn't sell. They're $2.90. They're gone. I got to get rid of them. So it's quite interesting. Oh, and then this year also, my Kenneth is building his own workshop.
Mhm.
So the garage, I'm working on him to enclose it or make it more weather friendly, so that I can have the garage as my workspace, and then my listing I'll do inside. But like I want to do my shipping, and because it'll be real close to my inventory, outside in the garage. So and that's kind of exciting. We'll see.
It is exciting.
Yeah.
So, Janie is asking, what percentage do you set aside for income taxes? So this is going to depend on your tax planning for your individual goals. So as an example, for me, I want to reinvest 100% of the business money back into the business to reduce my tax burden for the future year. But that means at the last year I resell ever, 100% of that money will be taxable. So it depends on your goal. If you go, if you want to do it by the book and you're learning how to do it, you need to look up your tax bracket and take that part out plus extra for savings.
What are you doing to that poor baby?
I know, right? So I
So
would
is
say,
this what I'm gonna have to expect with the baby?
dude,
Like,
it's,
like an angry. That baby sounds angry. Like,
you know,
just-
Natalie's
Wait a
angry.
minute. Isaiah, are you pregnant?
no, I'm not pregnant. I was just wondering. That's
Okay.
all.
Yeah, I feel like Terrible Twos is in full swing.
Going back a couple days, excuse me, going back a couple days, maybe a couple of weeks, you were using the baby analogy about how when they throw tantrums and stuff like that,
Yeah,
he just doesn't know what's going on. And it's the same thing with me. I was maybe not on here, I was throwing tantrums within my own self about my numbers. And now it's just kind of like, oh, okay.
I think that overall everyone needs to be patient. It takes a long time to get any understanding of any kind of business. And it's just like everybody is really a toddler and a newborn in this business, and they're expecting full adult results. And it just doesn't work that way. It takes a long time to learn all the different pieces. Jeannie says Terrible Twos is a lie. It's Terrible Threes. But yeah, I'm gonna have two of them. And I'm visiting my brother right now, and he has one the same age, so it's good practice with two babies. It's a lot. People who have, we went to the zoo and we saw dozens of families with 5 or more. So 2 is nothing. There's people who take 8 kids to the zoo. So somebody in the chat is asking about pre-orders. So we don't recommend pre-orders in the group because not having the inventory in stock is very dangerous as a beginner, because you don't know exactly when the item is going to arrive. And even if there is like a tracking date, it can be dangerous. There are rules on eBay that allow you to pre-sell, but it can also get you in trouble. If you guys are in the other call, please put your question in the chat and I will answer it as we go. Linda says it's still easier than teenagers, which I think is true. Johnny says he has a guy in town that has 11. I can't believe it. It's amazing. And I think that, okay, let me tell you guys something. And you tell me if you think this is true. At the zoo yesterday, sometimes you see a parent and they're like stone cold professionals. Okay, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but like there's like 2 kids throwing things, one kid biting somebody else, and the parent is just like stone cold handling it. I mean, Everyone here should go to the zoo just to see that person operate under pressure. That's much harder than reselling. Reselling is not. Getting your 30 listings done before 9 in the morning is much easier than 8 screaming kids. And yesterday we saw 2 mom and dad pushing a wagon, 4 kids in each wagon. Bro, that's a lot. That's 8 kids. So
Chris,
go ahead.
it's Carol. I have 14 kids.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
have,
no, go ahead.
okay. I have 14 kids, and so I have 34 grandkids. And I run it like a business. When I had my kids at home, I had a spreadsheet and I knew where they were all supposed to be. They called me the Nazi mom. And I would say every 15 minutes, this is where you're supposed to be. Why aren't you there? And I totally had it down so we could get everything done by 1 o'clock so I could teach music lessons. And I think that has just changed my life. So I can do my eBay and I can go to school. I went to college older, but the parenting is what taught me how to be a good adult and get her done.
So, Carol,
Mhm.
I think that Tech has 250 children every day when he puts the listings up, right?
Exactly.
And he has that really strict process. This is how we do things. This is how it goes. And if you have kids taking care of other kids, because that happens in the households, and they follow the same protocol, it can make it much easier, right? So it's interesting. Like if you can create Nazi, maybe not the right term today, but like if you're
Maybe
that type of person for reselling where you have a very strict protocol, it can have a tremendous influence because this is how we do it. Everything has a place, everything has a home. That type of parenting is how you should treat your listing. But
And
yeah,
they actually like me. My kids love me. They honestly do. I'm the fun mom, but I'm so strict. They don't have to guess what I'm thinking. They really do. I'm fun. I fix amazing food and we have lots of parties and everything, but it's definitely structured. It's definitely a business and structured. And I love
it's a
it.
business. Kids is a business, 100%.
But I love it. It's great. And
Yeah.
every kid got to unwrap a present. I saw every one of them. Some of them I had custom made for them. Every grandkid got to open a present, and I saw every one of them do
Yeah, it's
it.
and
fun.
being on the same page is also important because 2 parents on the same page, both parents on different pages is different.
Right.
But this is why, like, I mean, this is maybe not a good example, but like taking care of a dog different than taking care of a baby, right?
Except for we had dogs here too. Darn it.
But I'm just thinking when I think of an everything seller, right? I think of a person that has a parakeet, a squirrel, a warthog, a lizard, a Komodo dragon, a tiger, and 4 kids. It's like it's difficult because they require different types of care.
Right.
So if they're all boys, probably there's some things that interact versus half and half versus all girls, probably different parenting.
Right. Anyway, it's really interesting because it was great. And we actually had a family band and we traveled all over the United States.
Yeah.
So that was like all part of it. And anyway, it's interesting how it's came into my eBay life and helped me be more organized.
Okay. I have a couple more questions in the chat. One is, should I use bold title for my listings? I recommend bold and subtitle and promoted listings if you are selling replenishable items, but on one-off items, I don't recommend bold or subtitle. Dinesh is asking, can you charge shipping by weight? You can, and that's called calculated shipping. One issue with that is that sometimes it's more expensive than flat rate shipping. So if you can use flat rate shipping, I would use that as sort of the cap. So for example, first class shipping, instead of doing calculated, I might just charge $5.99 flat. For a priority envelope, instead of charging calculated by weight, because like a 1 pound item going to Hawaii is going to cost a lot more than in your local state. So typically I would recommend flat rate if it fits in a flat rate container, fixed price shipping. If it does not, like any type of item that can be shipped that doesn't fit into one of the flat rates, then I would typically use calculated. But again, typically if you ship ground, it's pretty affordable. So sometimes those calculators are way off. So sometimes if Dinesh had a listing for something and some person might get a quote on shipping that's $4 or $5 above what it actually costs because of the calculated, and that can turn a customer off. But if you're just learning, or if you sell heavier items, I do recommend using calculated shipping. Let's see if there's any other questions in here. How quickly do I recommend scaling up? Okay, so we'll end it on this question. This is a really good question. And then we'll switch to the beginner call, which we'll do privately today. We have a podcast called Advanced eBay. You can get it even for $5 in our Patreon, but the podcast goes over how to scale. So essentially what you want to do is, as you scale, we talked a lot today about saving and taxes and this kind of stuff. So essentially, you want to grow where the number of listings in your store goes up and the amount in your bank account goes up. So as an example, in the beginning, advanced eBay, which if you're doing it our way, you'd buy something for $10, right? And at the very minimum, you would make $11 profit. Okay, actually, it doesn't, that's the very minimum. So what that means is you can replenish the item and your bank account goes up by $1. Right. And the beginner call is the same room. And this call is also 24 hours a day. And also I'm going to go over the call list real quick before we switch over. But that allows you to replenish the items in your store and your bank account goes up $1. Now, if you do it the true tech way, then when you buy something for $10, you would make at least $21 profit. Okay, so this time you can list 2 items in your store and put $1 in your bank account. So hopefully that answers your question, because that is the safest way to grow. Where in the beginning, let's say you spend $1, you're making $5 profit. You can buy a couple more and put a couple bucks in your bank account, and then you never run out of money. What happens is a lot of people are in 100% growth mode. They reinvest all the money in, and they don't have any money in their savings account. Christine was talking about that. You got to have extra money for things that come up. And their store is also not growing. If you've been in the same place, like your store is at 200 items and it doesn't grow, then you're not doing it the right way, because your margins are too small and your sell-through is too slow. So let me go over the call list for everybody. There's a lot of information in this, but Monday through Friday, hold on, let me mute this person. Monday through Friday, I do this call in the morning from 6 to 7. After that, the beginner call, Isaiah does, and he answers questions at any level, although my call is still a beginner call. This call that we're on right now is the same room for the beginner call, and it's also open 24/7. We have people all over the world, especially in the UK. So most likely there will be people in this group, in this call all day, but a faster way to get a response would be to post in the Facebook group, because there's people in that group and can answer your question immediately. And writing the question down in text will force you to articulate what you really need, and that will help you get there. So the best way to use the group is to participate in the calls, asking people questions in the Facebook group, and even more specific, telling people what you're doing so that they can help you. Tech does a call on Tuesday nights. I consider him the greatest reseller of all time. So you can ask him any questions until the cow comes home. He really enjoys reselling and helping people at the highest level. So that's exciting. Today is Wednesday, so we have 2 calls, women's clothing with Michelle, and we have Linda, who does antiques or jewelry. We have a bi-weekly call on numbers from Cheryl. She's the accountant in the group, so she can give you legal advice on your taxes. We cannot, because she's a professional. She also has a free expense sheet that you can use. I have a free one that you can use too. I'm sorry, hers is not free, hers is paid. I have a free one that you can use as an example, and hers is like a real one you can use for taxes. Brian does a book club with Sarah on Monday nights. We have a toy call, shoe call, media sellers call on Thursday. We talk about Whatnot, Poshmark, and other platforms like Mercari on a other platform call. We have a jeans call with Andy, UK sellers call, an Australia call, a call about YouTube and social media, and a call about car parts. So lots of information. How I recommend you do it is Facebook group first, Zoom calls first, listen to text calls in reverse order. So listen to the most modern one and go back 2 years. And honestly, that call, I mean, should increase your income hundreds of thousands of dollars, because it's so insane talking to somebody who makes 7 figures or more. Let me grab the questions here and then we'll call it for the day.
Dude, I feel like I can kill this, dude.
You ready to kill it?
Dude, I could. There's so many questions in your other chat too. I can get all of these, bro.
Oh, there's questions on YouTube?
Dude, I can get all of them, bro.
Perfect. Because there's only one more question in the other Zoom room, which is if you notice a flaw, message the customer and they don't respond, I would still ship it to them so I don't get a shipping defect. Anybody else?
Yeah, that's usually how you play it.
That's how you have
ship it to
to
them.
like,
And if they have an issue, you just tell them
like
to return.
they at least get the item on time.
Yep.
Could be the wrong item, but at least they get it on time and you don't get a defect and you're protected against negative feedback.
Yep.
So hopefully that answers your question, Corinne. And that's the exact type of question that people would do. And again, in this call, we don't do shortcuts. So you would always do what the maximum you can, and you'd always blame yourself and not the customer. All right. So Isaiah, I'm going to switch it over. Thank you everybody on YouTube. And this call was a little different than what I was expecting, but I found a lot of value.
So,
go ahead, Isaiah. I didn't stop it yet. Do you have any feedback?
I was going to answer the questions that was in your YouTube chat.
Oh, go for it.
All right, let's do it. All right. So Nick Chowdhury said, to delete active postings that are not selling after 9 months, what reason do you use when ending the post? You can use item is no longer for sale. You can do issues. So there's something wrong with the reserve price. Usually I just do item is no longer for sale, or I think there's an other reason as well. Someone asked, Matt Weinman asked, anyone do sports cards in the group? There's actually a good bit of sports card sellers in the group. However, we don't currently have a sports card call just because we need a couple more people in order to host it, in order to like have a consistent following forward. But if you wanted to join the group and talk about sports cards, there's plenty of people here that do that. William asked, I don't understand how you can listen under 6 minutes. There's a lot of process that go into it. Primarily, if you're using Sell Similar, it can be much faster with your listing process. Furthermore, when you're listing similar items over and over again, it's way easier to list those items in a shorter period of time. For example, if you're listing, coats one day and then shoes the next day and then vintage glassware, it gets to the point where you're not compounding your knowledge. However, if you're listing the same things over and over again, it gets much, much easier to get that speed faster. Jonathan said, just depends on the item you're listing. Books, for example, can take me 5 minutes or 15. Some are rare. Johnny, can I ask you a question real quick about books?
100%. What you got?
What do your numbers look like when it comes to books? Like listing speed, processing speed, etc.
Including photos or just the listing part itself?
You can just talk about each one of the processes. Like, what is it like? Like you buy a book, like how do you get books? And then from there, what does the process look like?
Okay, how I buy books in bulk, and then I process them in a facility. It's like half a warehouse, like 1,500 square feet.
Yeah.
So the buying's the easy part. It takes like an hour and a half to pack them and haul them in tubs and whatever.
How many books are you usually buying per bulk buy?
3,000 to 5,000.
Ooh.
Yeah. Library sales are no joke. Neither are thrift stores when you take it all.
Yeah.
So yeah, they weigh about 80 to 150 pounds. So treat your back well. use tools. I have a lot of hand carts and dollies. Makes life a lot easier. So I get them back to the shop. I then sort them by genre first, and then by condition. And then this is just eBay side, no Amazon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just eBay. Once that's done, I then put them in other little tubs, and I do 35 a day, so each one gets 35. Then they go to the photo area. Photos take anywhere from an hour to 2 hours. I do about 12 or more photos, depending on the book. That's anywhere from 500 to 600 individual pictures. And then I put them on a thumb drive, come back to the desk, and then I start listing. The listing process itself can take, I'm sorry, before photography, I do the price comping in advance, and I do, it's probably not going to show up well, little tickets like that. So that's $12.99 little ticket. And then put them in stacks to list, pull out the little tag. So I already know the price in advance. Listing itself takes about a minute to 3 minutes, depending on how old it is. If it's older, it's going to take more to that 3 minute mark because I want to be as detailed as I can. And usually with an older book, there's so many more flaws with it. The condition notes is the longest part of the listing itself. I use the same title method that Mel uses. The only thing I do differently is I do put the publisher and year in it. So if you're not familiar with her YouTube back from Burnout, go check that out, and she'll tell you how to list books. And then I do the put away on mobile bookshelves. Everything's on wheels because they need to be, because books are heavy, and my space is confined. That's the biggest problem with media, is the space, at least in the book world. DVDs, CDs, not so much. But in books, they eat up space so fast. And then I do my shipping in the morning time, usually before or during the morning call itself, depending on how many orders come in. And then I ship it out once a day, sometimes twice a day if it's a big weekend order. So in the morning, and then at 4, because my post office closes at 4:30. And did you want me to go over more details on the listing process itself?
No, that was good. I really appreciate it. I just wanted to know, what the times are looking like. That was really good. Thank you. I bet that person was like, okay.
Isaiah.
Yeah.
How can I ask him, how do you ship? Do you ship media mail? Because I see a lot of these people that sell books on eBay, and they have some like free shipping, and I don't know how they do that.
In my experience in media, you have to do free shipping if majority of your books are $30 and under. If you're over $30 or more, you
after a brutal and prolonged winter storm took over 2/3 of the country. We got another
whether
weather
wherever you
event on the West Coast. So
Chris is host, and I don't have control right now.
I'll talk over the news, I guess.
Susan, your mic's on.
Inches of rain. Look at Portland now. That's
Susan.
Hey, good stuff, Susan.
Can you say that again, what you were saying?
Yes, I can. So if you're $30 and under and you're in the book game or media game in general, you kind of have to do free shipping. Well, I'm going to say in books, you got to do that. In DVDs and CDs, I think you got to charge if you are under $10. That's the only way it really works, I think. But if you're $30 and more, you're doing your more premium older books or high in demand books, you can get away with charging shipping. It should be the reverse, but in the book world, it's not for whatever reason. I think it has to do with the income brackets. Like if you're, less financially well off, you have that expectation of free shipping. And if you're not, they don't mind the shipping, to be honest.
So how low can you sell a price and sell with free shipping, right? I mean, what's the cheapest you can send a book media mail?
Free shipping first class, $7.95. For media mail, it's $7.24.
That's as cheap as you sell a book.
With my packaging material included and all eBay fees included, you will make 1 cent profit that way. You will be 1 cent over breaking even. It's $7.95 first class, $7.24 media mail.
And why do you sell on
how many? And those are books you just need to get rid of. And the other ones, you're making your money on the more valuable.
No, not necessarily, because I have a lot of multiple orders. I had a guy order 40 books for me yesterday at $6, which was under the number I just gave you. But I sold that many books, so it didn't matter. It was going in one box. That's the key in media, is you got to get those multi-quantity orders. that makes up for your lower orders or your average orders. That's where the money is, those multi-quantity orders.
You have it set
last
so
week, we
eBay
ordered
calculates
100
it?
books. I'm sorry?
Do you have it set so eBay calculates it, or do they ask for, you know, like a combined shipping of 40 books? Does it calculate it or do you?
I put it on the scale and I punch in the weight and it tells me when I do my shipping.
Right, I mean, but every book was listed at $6, or you sent him an offer? Like, how did he?
Yeah,
go?
they sent me an offer for 6 books for 30 bucks. That's $180. I'll do that because I don't think a lot of people realize how cheap books are. My books are about 2 cents to 5 cents each. That's my cost of goods. So I could afford to go really, really low because I paid pennies with these things.
And
So
why do you
a
sell
guy,
books-
or go ahead.
Sorry, why do you sell books on Amazon and eBay?
There's one, again, the space issue, it gets them out of this finite space and it's in their warehouse. Also, there's a higher turnover rate on Amazon. They sell lickety split usually. They have better software, in my opinion, to know your sell-through rate. So what you send in should sell within the time frame you've used the software to determine how fast it will sell. So if you send in slow-moving things, it may or may not sell. Well, that kind of defeats the whole purpose of the Amazon game. So you want that faster sell-through rate on Amazon. So every box you send in is a money box. It's a box full of money. And you put books in there and it comes back to you in cash. It's a beautiful thing. So you scan the books that meet whatever your Amazon metrics. Every seller has their own different theories and hypotheses on that. You send in the money box, you collect your check, it's out of your life. Now, the stuff that Amazon won't take because it's either too old or has a lower sell-through rate or it's a slower moving thing, I stick on eBay because that's the purpose of eBay, is those longer tail items, in my opinion, in the book world. And I bored everyone. Yay, books.
I was not bored at all. I was fascinated by that.
Now, books are truly fascinating. I do CDs and DVDs, but mainly in Amazon. Again, it's all about that. Fill the box up, collect the money. That's the Amazon game.
I think that
eBay-
there's a lot of value in, explaining what you just did. You made Beth and Catherine understand something much deeper. And I'm certain there's several other people who didn't know who also were able to understand it deeper as well. So I appreciate it, honestly.
I got a book question while I got him here.
Yeah.
I sell on Amazon, like just I kind of been fiddling with it. I sold a few books. Is there any books that you have to get ungated to, or you just all books you're like fair game?
It's not books that are gated, it's the publishers that are gated. Because Phillips sells books, for instance, but if you unlock the Phillips publisher, in this case, you can unlock Phillips CDs, Phillips books, Phillips TVs, Phillips this, that, and the other.
Right.
So that's the thing with Amazon. You are required to get ungated in certain things. Now, the book category, most things are ungated to you, and some things you get ungated naturally or organically over the course of your account age. And then others you have to send in an invoice to then get ungated. And usually it's a quantity of 10. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. It's by a product basis, depending on what you're sending the invoice for. And they either approve it or deny it. And just because you get denied does not mean you can't repeat that process over and over again until they finally say yes. A thrift store receipt is not an invoice. People get that confused all the time. It needs to come from a legit source, a retail legit store. It's not a thrift store or a garage sale.
Right. Yeah, I looked into it. It seemed like you just got to have a little more capital to like really get into some of the categories, just depending on what niche you're in. But
nickels in my case.
Yeah, right. I might be able to throw up a couple bucks getting the book categories.
If you're doing video games, the capital is more intensive. If you're doing any kind of electronics, again, the capital is more intensive. Books is probably the cheapest you can go to get in the Amazon game.
Right. Yeah, I just want to get I don't know, my account like in good standing with some sales under my belt before I even try to niche off into anything else. So
No,
basically
that's a great way to play it. Yeah.
I appreciate the information.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, let me slap through the rest of these real quick and then we'll go from there. Someone in the chat asked, reinvesting every penny. My husband asked, what was the purpose of this business model? The primary reason why people reinvest almost all of the money back into the business is it facilitates growth. You can grow much, much faster if you're not taking money away from the business. So if Chris wanted to make a, $10 million per year business, he would slow himself down a little bit if he was taking more and more money from it. Someone asked, does anyone keep a journal? Spirit Junkie says, does anyone have a business journal to record these very revealing questions, points, etc.? I'm starting a few people take notes during the call. I know that I'm not sure who it was. They used to instead of working, usually we try to work while listening to these calls, but there are people who will sit here and just intently take notes. I know Lisa takes notes all the time, especially in the beginner call. So definitely, I think. How long does it take for an out of stock defect to fall off? I have 2. Now I'm a top rated seller. It depends on the amount of sales that you have. If you've had 400 sales in the last 90 days, they'll fall off every 90 days. If you have not, it'll take up to a year for them to fall off. So ideally, you'd want to get your sale numbers up over the last 90 days. And if you can get over the 400, they'll fall off a lot faster. But be careful with those out of stock defects. They're very dangerous and they can throw you in below standard. Christine, apparently you have something called a Spode Christmas tree coffee mug. I don't know what that is, but I guess it's cool. Is that what that is? Someone said they sold one of those over the holidays.
I was gonna sell it, but I decided I wanted it because it's so cute.
Yeah.
At the top.
Someone has said that Chris should outline the best processes for each category. That would be huge for new members. Have a great day, everyone. I think we already have that. We have the processes for not all of the categories. We don't have something for furniture sellers or anything, but we do have calls from most of the major niches. And in each of those calls, we talk about the best ways to process inventory and, source inventory, get it sold, etc. Someone asked, is there any seller that is selling CDs and DVDs on eBay? Yeah, Johnny does that. And there's a whole media call dedicated to that. So we have a lot of CD and DVD sellers.
Yeah, most of mine are to Amazon. There's only a few I have on eBay.
Donald's World asks, when would be the best time to start listing summer's clothing? The best time would be in the spring. However, you can be listing that clothing now. We don't typically advise for people to hold on to inventory while they're waiting for a specific season. You can, Christmas stuff is going to sell in the middle of July, and you will be able to sell shorts in the winter. I think Tech said yesterday that he sold 25 pairs of shorts yesterday. So definitely you can sell things that are out of season within you can sell things that are out of season. You just have to ensure you're listing consistently. I wouldn't necessarily hold on to things for a specific season though. All right, that's it. That was all the questions. Chris.
We good?
I think we're good. No one else